There's something truly inspiring about meeting someone who's lived with gout for decades and still manages to enjoy life to the fullest. Maybe you've been dealing with gout yourself. Those sudden, sharp pains in your joints, the swelling, the frustration of not being able to move like you used to. Or perhaps you know someone who's struggled with it. Either way, I want you to know this: gout doesn't have to control your life. Today we're going to share real stories of people who've lived with gout for 30 years or more, and not just survived but thrived. These are folks who've learned how to manage their condition, stay active, and keep doing the things they love. And the best part? They're going to show us how they did it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. 30 years with gout? How is that even possible? Well, that's exactly what we're here to explore. Because while gout can be painful and unpredictable, it's also something you can take control of. And the first step to doing that is understanding what gout really is, and why it doesn't have to define your future. Let's start with Margaret, a vibrant 78-year-old who was diagnosed with gout in her late 40s. At first, she thought her active days were over. The pain in her big toe was so bad she could barely walk some mornings. But Margaret didn't give up. She worked closely with her doctor, made some changes to her diet, and found gentle exercises that kept her moving without aggravating her joints. Today, she still gardens, takes her grandkids to the park, and even goes on short hikes. Her secret? Consistency. She didn't just try something once and quit. She stuck with it day after day, year after year. Then there's Robert, an 82-year-old retired teacher who's had gout since his 50s. Robert will tell you straight, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. He didn't cut out all his favorite foods overnight. Instead, he learned balance. He still enjoys a steak now and then, but he pairs it with plenty of water and vegetables. He also discovered that staying hydrated and keeping his weight in check made a huge difference. What Margaret and Robert both teach us is that living well with gout isn't about deprivation, it's about adaptation. It's about finding what works for you and making it a part of your life. And that brings us to the first key habit for managing gout long-term: listening to your body. You see, gout flares don't just happen out of nowhere. There are usually warning signs: a little stiffness here, a slight ache there. The people who've lived with gout for decades? They've learned to recognize those signals early. They don't ignore them or push through the pain. Instead, they take action right away, resting the joint, drinking more water, or adjusting their diet for a few days. It's like having an early warning system for your health. And that's where we'll pick up next, because managing gout isn't just about reacting to pain. It's about building habits that keep you feeling your best, day after day, year after year. And trust me, if Margaret and Robert can do it, so can you. Margaret and Robert's stories show us something powerful. Gout doesn't have to steal your joy. But how do you get to that point? How do you go from dreading the next flare to feeling confident and in control? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore now. Let's talk about hydration. Now, I know you've probably heard it before, drink more water. But when it comes to gout, this isn't just general advice. It's a game changer. You see, water helps flush out the uric acid that builds up in your joints and causes those painful flares. And here's the thing: many people with long-term gout control swear by their water intake. Take Evelyn, for example. She's 75 and has had gout for nearly 35 years. She carries a water bottle with her everywhere, not just sips here and there, but steady hydration throughout the day. She told me, at first I hated it. I was always running to the bathroom. But after a few weeks, my body adjusted, and now I can't imagine not drinking this much water. Now, let's be real. Drinking more water sounds simple, but it's not always easy, especially if you're not used to it. So here's a trick Evelyn shared: start small. If you're only drinking a couple of glasses a day right now, don't jump to 8 overnight. Add 1 extra glass in the morning, 1 with lunch, and 1 in the evening. Before you know it, it'll become second nature. But hydration is just one piece of the puzzle. The next habit we need to talk about is movement. I know what you might be thinking: exercise? With gout. But hear me out. The people who've lived with gout for decades aren't running marathons or lifting heavy weights. They've found gentle, consistent ways to keep their joints mobile. Low-impact activities like walking, swimming, or even chair yoga can make a world of difference. Take Henry, an 80-year-old who's had gout since his late 40s. He used to love hiking, but after his diagnosis he thought those days were over. Then his doctor suggested swimming. At first, Henry resisted, I'm not a swimmer, but he gave it a try. Now, he swims 3 times a week, and he says it's the reason he's still able to travel with his wife and play with his great-grandkids. The water supports my joints, he says. I don't feel the pain like I do on land. The key here is finding what works for you. Maybe swimming isn't your thing, that's okay. Maybe it's a short walk around the block or some light stretching in the morning. The goal isn't to push yourself to exhaustion, it's to keep your body moving in a way that feels good. And that brings us to the third habit, knowing your triggers. Everyone's gout is a little different. For some people, red meat is the biggest culprit. For others, it's shellfish or alcohol. The folks who've managed gout for decades? They've become detectives of their own bodies. They pay attention to what sets off their flares, and they adjust accordingly. Linda, a 72-year-old who's had gout for 30 years, told me she used to love shrimp. But after realizing it almost always led to a flare, she made a choice. I'd rather have shrimp once a year on my birthday and feel good the rest of the time than eat it whenever I want and suffer. That's the kind of mindset shift that makes long-term control possible. Now, does that mean you can never enjoy your favorite foods again? Not necessarily. Many people find they can still have small amounts of their trigger foods, just not every day. It's about balance, not deprivation. And that's where we'll pick up next, because managing gout isn't just about avoiding pain. It's about creating a lifestyle that lets you live fully without fear of the next flare. And the best part? You don't have to figure it all out alone. The people who've done it before you are proof that it's possible. When I first started talking to people who've lived with gout for 30 years or more, one thing stood out above everything else: their mindset. It wasn't just about what they ate or how much they moved, it was how they thought about their condition. Margaret, Robert, Evelyn, Henry, Linda, they all shared this quiet confidence, this unshakable belief that gout was something they could manage, not something that managed them. And that brings us to the fourth key habit, building a support system. Because let's be honest, navigating gout alone can feel overwhelming. But you don't have to do it alone. The people who thrive with gout long-term? They lean on others. Sometimes that's a doctor who really listens. Sometimes it's a spouse who reminds them to drink water or a friend who joins them for walks. And sometimes it's a community, like the online group Arthur, 81, joined after his diagnosis. Talking to people who actually get it changed everything, he told me. They'd say, hey, try this, or avoid that, and suddenly I didn't feel so lost. Now, I know technology isn't everyone's strong suit, but if you can find a way to connect with others, whether it's through a local senior center, a support group, or even just a phone call with a friend who also has gout, it makes all the difference. Because gout can feel isolating, especially when you're stuck on the couch during a flare. But you're not alone. And sometimes just knowing that is enough to keep you going. Finally, let's talk about celebrating the wins. This might sound small, but it's huge. The people who've lived well with gout for decades don't focus on what they've lost. They focus on what they've gained. Harriet, 79, keeps a little journal where she writes down her gout wins. No flare this month. Walked around the block without pain. Made my famous chili without triggering anything. She says it reminds her how far she's come. And that's the thing, gout management isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Some days will be better than others, and that's okay. What matters is that you keep moving forward. So let's bring it all together. Listen to your body, those little signals are your early warning system. Stay hydrated. Water is your best friend when it comes to flushing out uric acid. Keep moving, find gentle ways to stay active that work for you. Know your triggers, be a detective of your own health. Build your support system, you don't have to do this alone. Celebrate your wins, every step forward counts. If you take anything away from these stories, let it be this: gout is a part of your life, but it doesn't have to define it. Margaret, Robert, Evelyn, Henry, Linda, Arthur, Harriet, they're proof that you can live fully even with gout. It might take some trial and error, and yes, some days will be tougher than others. But you've got this. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you found a trick that helps manage your gout? A favorite low-impact activity? Share it in the comments. Your story could help someone else just starting this journey. And if this video resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tips on living your best life at any age. Here's to taking control, staying active, and enjoying every moment, gout or no gout. Because you deserve nothing less.